the manager. Walzer Automotive presents Car Selling Secrets.
80, right? Welcome to Walzer Automotive Group's Car Selling Secrets. I think this is episode 80, the podcast they said would never last.
Yes, you're right.
Really excited with today's guest. Cliff Banks is joining us via phone. He's probably the foremost automotive journalist writing in the country today. Really interesting cat, and super glad that he's going to be on. And we will be right back with Cliff.
If I could sing along with this, because I sing Doug Sucks, can I do that?
Hey, Cliff, have you ever been on a podcast that actually had commercials?
Yeah, I've been on a couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're kind of a rarity. This has been it's been a lot of fun to put this together.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about e-commerce and this, without making this sound like a commercial. Walzer spun off an internal product that we're in the process of taking to market, and I've been involved in that recently, called Fuse-Autotech. And basically it's a solution that will allow dealers to connect with customers completely digitally. And it's such a huge data undertaking. The end result is that a dealer that uses this product would be able to sell a car completely online. This includes all bank contracts, all state paperwork, so on and so forth. We're really attracted to the idea because we invented it. Sometimes you can get in trouble using that sort of yardstick, and it's worked pretty well for us because we're a very progressive auto group, and taking the negotiating part out of online transactions is a huge advantage to us. And because we've been doing it for so long, that part was easy. But the question is, and we don't know the answer until we launch it, which we will fairly soon, is how is the public going to take this? I mean, there's been attempts to do it, but it's always the current state of the art is a few steps beyond a form fill, right? I mean, you can exchange some information digitally, but nobody's really been able to figure out the last mile, which is how do you get the bank contracts in somebody's head and penny perfect payment generation and all that sort of stuff. And when you think about the size of the problem, we have to be able to figure out tax and registration, 50 states, and within states, within counties, and in some counties, it's different tax rate depending on what your zip code is. I mean, just the amount of data management that it's involved. And we think we've figured it out. But my question to you is, is this something that people are going to want?
It remains to be seen. I think it depends on who you talk to, what answer you get. Look, we're trying to undo a century of trained behavior regarding the car buying purchase, and it really is, in a lot of ways, the most complicated purchase a person will make. Even can be more complicated than buying a house, especially if you want to factor in the trade and all the different kinds of options. I take that back. I just bought a new cell phone for my wife, and that has been a complete disaster.
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, T-Mobile, and it was much worse than my most recent experience buying a vehicle. I mean, much worse.
And this from a guy that bought a Renault Alliance.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of work being done on it in this industry. There's 40-some companies that have some sort of solution. Most that don't get across, that don't get it all the way across the finish line. I think the Walzer Group is the Fuse-Autotech, and I've spent some time talking to the Walzer folks about it, and recently, it is, I think, one of the companies to watch in our space because, the company that nails it gets it right. The customers are wanting to, certainly showing that they're willing to buy online with Vroom, Carvana, some of these others. I think some of that behavior that I talked about from the past 100 or so years is starting to change. So
It's hard for us as dealers. I mean, I always default for this when we're trying to design or build or solve a problem. It's like, pretend you're not in the car business and you're just somebody that wants to buy a car. Is this good or bad? And it's really hard to do that because, of our backgrounds and what we know.
Well, we talk about the one price, and Walser is one of the few groups in the country that I think has really been able to make that happen, and make it happen well and profitably. That's a big question: is profitability
Right.
there?
Yeah, no, we're not a nonprofit organization. No,
right.
Some car dealers are. They own
Right.
Fiat franchises,
Right.
but
So it's there's a significant culture change that has to happen within the store, and then you have to market that and train your customers in that buying behavior. And I think you see you don't want to turn this into a commercial, but frankly, I think the Walser Group has laid out the template for how to do that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think the other person that really has single-handedly probably made a larger difference is Dale Pollock. I mean, he took the used car business, which was the wild, wild west, tamed it, and most V-Auto dealers, they're either one price or they're one price light. I mean, in the current used car world,
Right.
and you said educate the customers. I read a lot of boards and so on and so forth, and people are finally getting how the used car deal works in most retail
Right.
dealerships across the country. So I think, in Minneapolis, we weren't the first. We were probably just the biggest, but what helped was some of the other big players in time, Maury's Automotive, and in a sense, Luther isn't really one price, but they're close. So after
Right.
20 years, we've educated the local population, and we still have to defend the business model maybe 15 or 20% of the time. The first year, it was 99%. Everybody tried
Right.
us on constantly, and it was just terrible.
Right.
So I don't know.
But you had the fortitude and the wherewithal to stick with it and to push through. It's almost like a marathon runner hitting the wall,
Yeah.
but sticking with it and pushing through till you get to the other side.
I'll tell you a funny story about Paul, who's the older brother of the two boys that run Walser, and he was the president for a long time. He's currently the chair of NADA. Back in the
Right.
recession, when all dealers were rattled and they thought the end of the world was coming, I think I was on senior management for about 15 minutes, and we had a meeting, and he goes, "I got a great idea. I think we're doing a good deal with this one price thing, but we're not serving the whole market. What if one Saturday a month we had a negotiating Saturday?" And I said, "Paul, that's probably the most singular, stupid idea I've ever heard come out of your mouth." I says, "We built this whole culture and with people that don't know how to negotiate." And he goes, "Yeah, I guess you have a point there."
Well, it is true that a lot of cultures won't buy things unless they can haggle to some degree. So there is that. There's not a lot of that up in Minnesota. It depends on where you go.
You go to we have the
neighborhood to
largest
neighborhood,
Somali
too.
population
Yeah.
in the U.S., and you go into a Toyota store, and
Yep.
sometimes you think you're in Mogadishu.
Oh,
It's
yeah, definitely.
Just for whatever reason, Toyota's a popular brand with that community, and
Haggling is a very, very big thing.
yeah,
in
but
their
once
culture.
they understand that we're not going to do it, they go, okay.
That's true.
But Cliff, you're right. It does take a lot of perseverance, and it'll be interesting. We're going to go to market with the main product here, I think, in the next 60 days or so. And
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to see where this journey goes.
Yeah, I think again that's something I would urge you folks to stick with because I think it's going to be slow going at first, but you're farther ahead than some of your competition in the dealership world. You're also farther ahead than some of the third-party products that are out there.
Well, our advantage is, we've got an even split between really smart programming, data
Right.
management people, and car guys. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of the third parties, they have the first, but they don't have the second. And they
Right.
don't understand where all the pitfalls and pratfalls are. And the car guys understand that, no, if it's a lease car, you can't treat it as a trade to decrease the balance owing and so on and so forth. So.
Well, I had a great conversation with the CEO at Fuse-Autotech here a few days ago, and and very impressive. I mean, it was clear that he understood the car buying process as much as anyone, and all of the technological issues that having an online or digital system presents. So
you were talking to Colton?
yes, and
That guy is wicked smart. He's only 35, and it pisses me off. I've known him for
Jealous.
10 years, and it's just like, can you share some of that? It's not fair.
jealous as all get out. I mean, he handled every question, and he had such a grasp of all of the the issues and things that I think about. Just a much better grasp than even I do. But in fact, I was on a Zoom call not long after that conversation and mentioned Fuse-Autotech as being one of the companies to watch here over the next.
Hey, Cliff, keep it down. They haven't given me any stock options yet.
Okay.
Sir, I'm so tickled that you could be on the show. We're just about out of time. There's Cliff Banks, great automotive writer. I've met him a few times. Always interested in what he has to say about our business. And, these are exciting times. I completely agree that the business was pretty stagnant for a long time. The big change was, okay, for the next 10 years, the cars are going to be round. And after that, we'll make them square again, and then we'll go back to round. Now the change is like, it's crazy, and it's fun. It's not boring. That wraps up episode 80 of Walser Automotive Group's Car Selling Secrets. Tune in next week. I have no special guests. We'll just make stuff up.